Well, thank you for your presentation. And actually, one of my question directed to the Mr. Chong Won-kyung from Kyungwon. Yeah, so you explained a lot of the challenges of this global collaboration, and your company itself has like the different data centers around the world. And so I would be interested in what would be your criteria when you set up these data centers in the world, because I guess like the data centers is scattered around the world, and so that will be also one of the challenges when you later build up some kind of global collaboration. So does your company have some policy when you set up the data centers as some other countries?
Thank you. That's a good question. The global company like Symantec is a global operation to support the global customer. In general speaking, we call it follow the sun. Follow the sun means, for example, to support global, we need 3 or 4 data centers in US, Europe, and Asia. And we follow the sun, and they support all global customers. That is more efficient and best way to make better support and efficiently. But you know, as I mentioned, each country has their own regulations, such as, for example, Korea is as well. Korea, the government is regulated, Korea data should be reside within Korea. Those kind of is challenging for us, because installing the separate data center to too many countries, then we could not make any efficiency and generating intelligence like big data. So I believe by the virtue of free trade FTA type of agreement, those kind of regulations should be free and weakened and mitigated. Without that, we could not make a global operation and global competitive. Even Korean company who are looking after the global, growing global company, they will have the same policy, like follow the sun is a good idea, right? But still we could not make it. So good thing is, Korean government is now getting more, friendly, or they understand the challenges of the global company. So I believe that now we have a good progress in those kind of things in Korea. But I think we have to expand not to Korea, but also Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan, China, whatever. Combining the data center and combining intelligence, which is the only way we could grow the business, not only the business perspective, but also the protecting the customer more efficiently or more high quality.
Question? So, follow-on question. Since this is in working? Yes, since this is in Asian challenge, and we're talking about between Japan and Korea, I happen to know on a Google data center. And so this is probably a question to you, and also for you. Huh? Is it all working? So the hold here or here? Okay.
I think this year
Okay.
red here.
Okay, fine. So specifically, I want to go to the Asia, Korea and Japan. On the Google, they don't have a data center in Japan nor in Korea. If you look at the size, it may make sense to have a data center in Japan because it's a huge economy. And Korea also has a very good activity. But Google decided not to. And instead, they have a data center in Hong Kong and Singapore. It's kind of, if you think about the market, it's very strange. And because of those, in the case of Korea, it's a regulation. Korea has many very archaic regulation, and I'm not as optimistic as you are. I don't think Korea is going to change those archaic regulations. And Japan also they have very idiosyncratic those regulation. They are very strict on data, in particular on the privacy. And I don't think they're going to change this government, those regulation, the laws. So I don't really expect FDA or any PTT or anything will solve this problem. But we should. And I really think in the case of Google, as an example, it makes so much more sense to have a data center, Japan and Korea now. And but in reality, as a foreseeable future, Google, as an example, will not have a data center in Korea or Japan. How do we? So this is a question to all of you, including the moderator. How do we approach this problem between Japan and Korea as a challenge to the Asia?
Thank you.
Actually, before you even answer the question, I want to add a clarifying note. Why is it a problem that Korea or Japan have regulations that attempt to protect consumers? I think it's American regulation that's archaic. We have judges who decide that cloud service is an electronic data service and doesn't need to be protected. Cloud service apparently is stored in water and not stored electronically. I think one of the reasons that Google doesn't have a data center in Japan and Korea is that they want to continue to abuse privacy in Japan and Korea. And I think it represents probably at least a $10 billion tax on Korean business in support of American shareholders, which as an American I'm entirely in favor of. But I don't see why Japan or Korea would view laws that protect their own citizens as archaic or as in need of reform to make Google happy. So what I'd really like to do is to have point and counterpoint. I've strongly disagreed with the question as framed, and now you can approach it in either direction without my interference.
Excuse me, but let me just jump in here. Just for your information, the First Lady who asked the question is Professor Young-Jun Park of the State University of New York in Korea. And then the gentleman back there who asked the second question is Professor Kilnam Chon of Korea Advanced Institute for Science and Technology. He also teaches at Keio University. And the gentleman who responded is Professor Eric Clemens of University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School of Business. Thank you. So from now on, please identify yourselves. That would help us all out a great deal, although you're all very well known. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kilnam, and thank you, Eric, for your comments. Being a business academic, and maybe I'm overly optimistic on that, but I like to think that in the end it will be the consumers that will choose businesses that they feel properly handles the data, and that if Google's management of data is improper, that will give an opportunity for other businesses that do handle data properly. But of course, that requires that we create a framework to judge what is going. I mean, to first understand what's going on and to deliver accurate information to the public, and to create a foundation for the consumers to choose. And of course, that also means national strategies in terms of if Japan decides that we would be the base to deliver services to those consumers who are more security oriented or privacy oriented than other people. That will be the choice. That's not to say we have a firm strategy here, but that's another question. But I think a discussion like that, or a strategic choice, and the consumer knowledge and business strategy, all these things combined will. I mean, so people would be simply. I mean, and I think there will be people who prefer the handiness and the ease of use, and are less sensitive to privacy issues, and I mean, let them be. And that's for their choice.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, let me try to answer the question. Actually, I do not have my answer for your question, but I'm very optimistic. Let me illustrate one case is, for example, in Korea, antivirus market is dominated by local vendors like Unavailable and others. Smartphone market share is, when I joined 3 years ago, is about 5%, less than 5%. Very small player in antivirus. Now, I believe are growing 10% level. What I'm saying is, as time goes, and there's many data breaches, data threat happen, now the global industrial company now realize that they need a more globalized, more balanced approach to the security. So now they are thinking about local and global solution as well. So those kind of trend approach is getting better and better to resolve fundamental issue on your question. So maybe still I believe the Korean government think IT security is part of national security, and they're still suspicious that there is any backdoor in the operating system made by the US and security software made by US. Yeah. I feel that it will be sometimes in some cases irrelevant. They can ought to make a suspicion on those kind of risk or threat. I do not know the one-shot resolution on that, but we can propose a good progressive approach. For example, Japan and Korea make an agreement to sharing the data between the country. And we have some regulation allow the flow of the data into the country, and then join Indonesia, Malaysia, and other countries. So we can make a better domain, or what is it, union of United Union of the countries in the information security perspective, and we can go better and better. As a general, I believe that from my perspective, from previous to current, Korea has made a progress. That's so that I would like to be optimistic to getting better in resolving this kind of fundamental issue.
Thank you.
I would like to follow up from that question, the importance of having a legal framework to allow cloud computing and big data to flourish. And I would like to give my specific example. 2-3 years ago, I was invited to give a speech in Singapore on data protection law. At that time, Malaysia was trying to develop data protection law. And the session was attended by government officials, including officials from the Attorney General Office. And I asked them, is there any appetite in Singapore Singapore to have a law on data protection. And at that time, 4 or 5 years ago, the answer was no, we are not interested. Surprisingly, last year, Singapore came up with the Data Protection Act, and if you look at the rationale or the pushing factors behind the law is basically trying to encourage, trying to make Singapore more competitive in terms of, becoming data centers and trying to encourage cloud computing and companies from all over to be based in Singapore. So what I'm trying to say here is that yes, it is very crucial to have legal framework to allow cloud computing and big data to flourish. And in Singapore, in Malaysia, the government realized that, and they have adopted some legal framework to allow that to happen. So 5 years ago, the answer was no, we are not interested. But last year, they came up with a law, and very much the rationale behind the law is data centers and to make Singapore, as I said, more competitive. So economic reason behind the law. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Would you identify yourself before?
I forgot. I'm from Malaysia. I'm Munir from Malaysia.
My name is Edmon Makarim from University of Indonesia. I believe one of the reasons for the data center requirements, not only for the consumer protection perspective, but also for national security, and also for the prevent the strategic implication for the public services. So that's why data center become a requirement in my country. In our government regulation, there is requirement. If the electronic system related with the public services have a strategic implication to countries, and they should have data center in the locations. But in practice, that might be exceptional if the conditions is every countries have the same principle in jurisdictions, because particularly the legitimate interest, how the investigators and some related crucial interest to have data as soon as possible can be answered by the electronic system providers. So it depends on the situation now, because there is no global consensus for consumer protections. But look at the real situation in the cyberspace. Cyberspace is not like in conventional now. Everyone can take a breath, oxygen in this air without, there is no guarantee, there is no poison, of course. But in the cyberspace, everything represents in binary digits. And there is no clear information that is that data, good data. Computer program is a set of instructions expressed in codes, right? And there is a hidden instruction, malicious code. There is no guarantee for all over the world who has a mistake, who has failed, if something bad happened in the doomsday scenario in the futures. User cannot prove that. National security also cannot have a trace instrument to tracing back what is the behind of the doomsday scenario in the future. So this is not a simple answer for us. So in our government regulations, we have also requirement for escrow in the futures. But very interesting with your slide about new business models in the new economy. Is that really change from ownership to licensing? I think more than that. Consumer had already spent their money for the trusted things, but there is no proven that could be trusted. There is no standard merchantability. There is no guarantee for business particular purpose. even for the cloud. So there is a quite interesting, crucial question. To what extent we can say that it's data or information? From the IT perspective, it's clear difference. Data is raw materials. Information, someone had already had this property. Maybe had already changed the evolution of the property. Property become proprietary also. So, in this context, legal perspective explore and elaborate. We cannot say there is ownership now have an inherent with the possession. Now in the futures, we can say there is a value difference, ownership and possessions. And to some extent, maybe the evolution of property is mixed properties. Communal private, communal public property, and public-private property. So that is maybe challenging conception in the future regarding trying the new business models or new economy in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have 3 minutes. Any more question or comment from the floor?
I try hard to use 3 minutes. I'm CEO of Beijing Normal University. I have 2 observations, inspired by this excellent presentation. One is that we do need global structures, in addition to domestic solution for data protection. The international trade is calling for the legal framework to facilitate and enabling the free data flow. And the professor mentioned the case of Singapore. If I could share his experience in Hong Kong. In 1970s, Hong Kong introduced its data protection law. It's not because Hong Kong was so economically advanced. It needed data protection. It's only because Hong Kong at the time was part of Commonwealth. It wanted to do business with the UK, and the UK is part of EU data protection system. So that to be able to enter into the European system and the market, they have to employ data protection law. So this very interesting. It means that the increasing international trade is stimulating more law on free flow of data. And say the CJK group is now negotiating the free trade agreement. So I wonder whether this has been taken into account. You're the leader in this region. This should be really been pushed. The second observation is about a wonderful presentation about the changing from mass communication to the socialized communication on branding. I guess your research will have impact on intellectual property law. This is very significant. I hope you have English translation. It is only Japanese. I can only understand 20%. And for the branding system, you are very right. In the social network world, we see some very famous trademark just emerge in a couple of months. Normally, it would take 100 years to have a very famous mark. Like the IBM would take almost 100 years. But for Google, it became famous in 3 years. So it seems this new communication environment and really changing the marketing and branding system. Let me change the notion of intellectual property protection, especially trademark law. Yeah, so thank you.
Yes, this ends first session. Thank you for participation.